Hi there, welcome back. All right, so the goal of this is to work with Umzug, right? Umzug is framework agnostic migration tool for Node. So what it does is it gives you the privilege to be able to run automatic migrations on your DB, right? So we're going to start off by installing Umzug, right? So as of the time of recording, the version we're using is 3.3.1. So you have to make sure that at least you're using that version right here. So you can go ahead and do something like a yarn install. So I'm going to um, do exact same thing here. Yarn add, then just do Umzol art 3.3.1. Why I actually suggest using this version is lots of version basically has their installation processes which differ. So it's actually recommended that you use a version that works, right? So as of now, the version that works is this 3.3.1. So you can go ahead and do this installation, right? So when you're done, we can go back to the code and check it out. So the first part here is the index. So if you check the index now, we have to instantiate Homzog. So the question is, how do we start with the instantiation? Right. So you can see what we are doing here. First of all, we're actually importing Umzug, right? So you can scroll up and see where we're importing it right here at line 6. So import Umzug, SQLite storage, then from Umzug. So this is the first part that we have. So once you go down, you see that first of all, you have to specify the globe path. So the globe path basically means what folder is your migrations located, right? You can see that what we basically have here, this is TypeScript project, but then we are actually targeting migrations folder, which is present here. You can go ahead and create it under your models folder if you don't have it already, right? So there's a migrations folder there. So any file within here, don't worry, they are going to be in a TypeScript TypeScript format, right? So any file within the migrations folder, will be recorded, right? So you have to specify it takes in an object, right? So you have to specify your current working directory. Of course, Node.js that's just your double underscore their name. So that would be your current working directory. So the context, you have to specify this context because this is what you'll be using later. The get query interface basically has a lot of other things like create column, update column, and other stuff that we'll discuss later on, right? So then we have the storage. So now right here, we're actually using the SQLite or RM, right? So you have to specify that. And then for the login, so we just use the console, right? So this is the first part of you instantiating Umzug, which works well. So the next part is you have to define a type. So the way the type works is Umzug itself actually has a class called underscore types, and this underscore types has a um, migration object, right? So a function basically. So it takes in the params of the migration params, right? So this would be our types. So we'll be using the within our migrations file later on. And then you see the way we're actually instantiating our model, right? So this might not be a source of worry. So what we're concerned about is here, umzog.up. Um, in every migration, there is the up and the down command. The up command means whenever you run the up command, it's going to basically do some sort of mutations, right? And it's like you're adding. So the down command is just a way for you to roll back to initial changes, right? So if you don't want that up command to run, you basically have to run the down command to revert it to the initial stage, right? So here you can see that the way Umzog works is I create a new table called SQLize meta. And what this new table does is that it keeps track of each of the migrations file, each of the file you define or you create under the migrations folder are being tracked and kept within the new model called the SQLize meta. This is an advanced stuff, and we might be covering this later on, in other videos. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'll show you that what it basically does is just it creates the SQLize meta model. So that's all. So you can see here, we're actually running the Umzug up, meaning that all the up commands will be run in this case. So immediately it's done running, it's just going to log this to the console for us. Database migration is completed successfully. So if there happens to be any error, so it's going to run this, right? So then we'll move on to writing the actual migrations. Okay, so first off, I need to show you something like a skeletal view, right? So we basically have like three things that you do whenever you're working with migrations for SQL databases, right? So it's either you're adding a column, you're adding a new table, or you're just trying to change or update existing column, right? So going to start with adding a new table, right? We're going to add a new table. So now let's create a new table. Um, we have just looking for a very small table. So we can use, okay, let's use this. Let's duplicate this and create a new table. Let's call this new table. New table. All right, new table. So we'll have similar name, and what I'll do, I don't make the stuff to be too much. I'll just create. Doesn't have to be too much. Just the ID, and we'll call this the amount. Right. If I could spell. Right. So we have the amount, and then we have the ID. So those are the two things that we have, you know, at our stage, and then we just move on it. So we have a new table, right? So why we need migrations? Maybe I've not explained this. Is in development, SQLites basically have um, a way for you to be able to pull down all the table and then just like create a new one. But in production, this is very disastrous because now you have existing user data. You don't want to pulling down any table and trying to create new one. So this is very not production wise. So in production, we need to run our initial migrations. This will basically help us, achieve or add these new tables into a database. All right, so basically have the new table with ID and the amount, right? So this new table now, we can probably add it to our index. This is not required, depending on your setup. To export const new table model is equal to new table. So we just import it right there. So new table model, new table. Good. But the problem with this is, so while I'm actually explaining the other part, I will open up the PG admin. Let's see what we have under the new table. So you can see that this table, these are per table. So what we have is we have 31 different tables, 31 entries, right? So we have a lot of them. But you can see that our new table is nowhere to be found. That is expected behavior, right? All right, so this is what we'll do. So we'll go back to our migrations, and then we'll create a new file. So we can call this 00. Let's start with that to keep track of our migrations file. So one thing I'll mention is you can see that right here we don't have the SQLized meta table in here. So there's no SQLized meta table anywhere that we talked about previously. So this is it. So we can actually create a new file. We can call that 00. So we can call this add new table.ts. Right. So it's very similar with what we already have. So table.ts, what this would do, we're going to basically have the up and the down command. So go back here, and here it's as simple as that. So what I normally recommend is you can just do something of this nature. Let's add this. So we're bringing in SQLize and SQLize, and then the migrations from this is a migration type from the index. Right, so see what we basically have is we can remove all this, we don't need them. Right, so you can see that it's already run here. That's from the new model, right? So this is the model name here, new table. So we'll bring it right here. Don't forget to add S to it, but that's the way Sequelize will recognize it, right? So at this stage, now you can actually proceed to run your dev server. So this will apply our migrations automatically. Okay, you can see that we've created a new table and blah blah blah. So let's go back to our model. All right, so we can see that we now have 33 out of, the previous one we have what 31. Now it's 33. That means two other new models have been added. The equalize method we talked about initially is now added. So this equalizing method basically has this new migration file, which is add new table.js, right? This is the certain migration file we created. This has been applied. So go back to our new table. Let's see if we see our new table. Our new table is there. So once we'll try to fetch all the rows, we see that we have the amount, created at, updated at, and deleted at. Interesting. So we're done with one part of the migrations. What if we don't really need, to specify this as a name, right? What if we want to add a new column? Let's start with that. So if at the end of the day I discovered that, oh no, I need to add a new field to this. Let's just be an integer, right? So allow now can be false, right? So we can call this table count, right? So what normally happens here is that our dev server doesn't really recognize this, right? So it doesn't really recognize what we've done here. So how do we now tell a migrations file to do this? So we have to write a new migration, right? So we need to write a new migrations, and then we can call this O1 add table count ts. Interesting, right? So we want to add table count field ts, right? So now we can actually go back to what we had initially, add a column, right? So we can actually pick everything from here and just put it here. So we take this off, these are not necessary. So first of all, we need to recognize the model, right? So and then the model, our model name, don't forget, is always this. Go back to it and we'll paste it there. Don't forget it has S. So that's our model name. So what field did we add to our model? We added the table count field. So you can go back to here and just put it right here. The table count field has been added. So the table count field basically has a lot of this, right? So you can go back to the add table count and then just paste in what we have. Remember, we're using Sequelize, right? So yeah, so when you run it up, we're going to actually add this new table count field to our DB, right? So currently, our DB basically just has amount, doesn't have the table count field. So when we run our migrations again, it's going to have that. So you can proceed to run that in dev. The migrations has been added, right? And then this new one has been run. So we can go back to a model and then just try to refresh this. It's not coming through, so we can basically just refresh everything we have there and try to fetch out the rows again. Okay, you can see that we basically have a new field called integer count. Interesting, right? So we've been able to cover two main things, right? Adding a new table. These migrations, we had a new table. This migration, we actually add a new column to your table. What if we want to update existing column? So now, instead of calling the table count, we just want to call it count. We already know it's a table, so why call it table count? From table count to this new count field. So you see that it's migrated now. And we should be able to see the new entry. So we have O2, rename your table field. So when you scroll down, you see what we have here is the table. So we can basically like view all the rows. Right. So now everything is changed to count. Right. So the same thing applies for if you intend to um, remove a particular field. Right. So we've actually talked about adding, creating a new table, adding a new field, renaming that new field, and yeah. So let's remove this count. Right. So we can just do this. So we need to write a new migration. Let's duplicate that. Remove count field. Yes. All right. So what do we do? We can basically take a look at the command for removing column. So we have something like this, right? So we just put that there. It's easy. And then basically column to remove, put this right here. So it's not the start types. Remember, we're using sequelize. Okay, so now we have to focus on the column name. So what column are we targeting? So this, okay, these are first table, new tables. So what's the column? The column is count, right? Same thing applies here, count. So when you actually run the down command, we're supposed to, like take it off. So let me quickly grab what we had initially. Right, so sequelize dot integer. So let's make sure that we're doing the right thing. Okay, so that should work. Sequelize dot integer. I want to make sure why that is definitely showing some errors. Sequelize. Okay. Okay, so there was a mistake in the import. It is not the structured import, it's just the direct import. Yes. Okay, so this will actually remove the field. So sorry, is the count field, is the count. So you can see what we basically have here is we have the three params already. That's the table name, the column you tend to remove, right? And if you want to specify that exact data type, you can specify it under the migrations command, right? So we have all of this, we have all of this, right? So we now have our new migrations with O3 remove count field. So make sure you've removed the count field in the actual model. So when you do this, go back to our migrations, everything seems okay, then we run our migrations again. So this definitely will remove the count field from our model, right? So this will definitely remove the count field from the model. So we can take a look at that. Okay, something seems not to work. Please remove column. Okay, new tables, then the count. Okay, so let's do vn build. So you build first before you run yourself because it's actually picking all of the migrations file from the build directory. So if nothing is present within the build directory, you might not be able to see that migrations. Right. So rename, there's no remove yet. So essentially run your build. So now we're running dev again. Interesting. So it has actually removed run this migration now. So when we refresh, you can see that there's no count field anymore. Right. So what other one do we have? So we've covered remove, covered the rename, covered the change of this column. right? So let me see. So it's very similar. We don't go through this. You can do this on your own. So it's just a way for you to specify table name, the field, then specify the properties as needed. So that will actually do it for you.